this must be Liszt. It is so brilliant. It is so different from other types of composers. This must be the virtuoso Liszt. Yes, it is Liszt. And it is the tail end of the first little cadenza type episode in the first piano concerto that he wrote in E flat. Liszt was a very innovative composer and a very challenging composer. Besides being this tremendous extroverted virtuoso type of personality, he always looked for something unique in his compositions. And so when he set out to write a piano concerto, he did not follow the conventions. He did not write a piano concerto in 3 movements or 4 movements like other composers around him or previously would have done. He set out to write something that is you could call fantasy, or a kind of symphonic poem for piano and orchestra, because there are no movements. It's a piece in one movement without any break. It has therefore a new architecture, because he has to mold out of many, many elements and motives and themes and episodes between orchestra and piano. He has to create a structure that overall is successful, and he certainly is successful with that concept. Let me give you a few samples of what you're going to hear when you listen to this piece performed. The orchestra starts in unison, a very heroic theme. And then the pianist cuts into this. So it sounds like the pianist has nothing to do with what the orchestra presented the audience with, this heroic theme. He, the pianist, or the virtuoso soloist, engages in some kind of a fantasy and improvisation on something totally unrelated. Very, very much uniquely Liszt, who does not want to follow the norm. And why does Liszt always sound different than anyone else? What makes Liszt sound like Liszt? Well, part of that has to do that he uses the whole keyboard, but not all the time. He oftentimes prefers high notes, the upper register, and uses both hands. Let me give you an example. Later in the piece we have this. Both hands are playing up here, giving a new sparkle, let's say, a new color to the music. And also, this is the very first piano concerto that uses a triangle in the what we could call the scherzo section of this movement, of this piece, a scherzo movement section, which starts like this. And where there are the little breaks in the piano, this is where the triangle cuts in. and so forth. It gives a very funny character to this, and certainly that's why one can call this the scherzo movement replacement. But Liszt is not only about sparkle and virtuosity and brilliance, which the soloist has to extract from the instrument and has to be ready to give to the audience. It is also a very uniquely felt emotion that Liszt is capable of, and that is some kind of a dolce movement, a way of appealing to great sentiment and to the heart of people. Let me give you an example. Very extended episode where the pianist is not accompanied or interrupted by the orchestra, but really can spin out this extremely long, beautiful dolce melody that Liszt presents here. This part, by the way, you could call the second movement, the more intimate type of personality that Liszt shows. I believe the first piano concerto is always overall a light-hearted piece. It is very virtuosic, it is definitely brilliant, but not in the sense like you might hear Rachmaninoff or Tchaikovsky performed or certain other types of virtuosic music. It is light-hearted because the strong contrasts between the characters make it never too heavy. There is no sentimentality in his music. There is always a sparkle, there is humor, and therefore it's always very successful with audiences.